Good evening. I'm Bob Peters, Vice Chair of the Planning Board, and I'm presenting Article 35, Amend the Zoning Bylaw, Open Space Residential Developments. Article 35 is proposed to amend the zoning bylaw relative to open space residential developments. The text of the current proposed change to the bylaw is the motion dated March 25th, 2022. OSRD is defined by state law, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 1A. A similar proposal was presented at the fall 2021 special town meeting, which failed narrowly. Many town meeting members felt that OSRD had merit, but could be improved, and the planning board agreed. The planning board also wanted to further a housing agenda, and there was broad agreement among board members that OSRD could be improved for this town meeting and brought back without any excessive need for the use of limited available staff resources. This article seeks to encourage, among many other things, adoption of zoning provisions permitting open space residential developments by right with site plan review. Through this provision, the Commonwealth seeks to encourage the preservation of open land in its natural state. Additionally, OSRD provides an incentive for preservation of historical structures which may be located on a site. Further, it encourages creation of affordable and inclusionary housing, which has long been identified as a need in the community. When adopting the state's general provisions for OSRDs, the Planning Board has looked to proven permitting processes and requirements from other sections of the zoning bylaw. The result is that this provides an alternative to conventional large lot subdivisions requiring site plan review by the Planning Board. It provides flexibility in lot layout, number of dwellings, and number of dwelling units similar to that of our existing special permit residential development. It permits a variety of dwelling types limited by strict size limits based on gross floor area. It preserves 35% of the site as open land and 15% of the site as common open space. It restricts the occupancy and price of a significant number of dwelling units to provide affordability. And it provides significant incentives to preserve historic structures. The Planning Board held hearings on this proposal throughout February. Significant amounts of public comments were received and were considered by the board. Comments received noted the potential for preservation of fairly trivial amounts of open space on smaller tracts of land. In response, the Planning Board adopted a minimum lot size of 70,000 square feet. In addition to lot size, OSRD requires a proof plan indicating no fewer than 2 lots could be created on the site by right. In response to public comment, the Planning Board added an upper limit for market rate units in an OSRD for there to be no more than 5 times the number of lots shown on the proof plan. The board also added the word shall to better ensure that it adopts appropriate and timely design guidelines and regulations for site plan review. A key requirement for an OSRD is open space. At least 35% of the developable site area, not including wetlands, must be preserved in its natural state. An additional 15% of the site may be used for recreation, stormwater, or additional open space for a total of 50% of the site. This is significantly more open space than is required in any current development type. This table summarizes the similarities and differences between the proposed OSRDs and existing residential development types. With conventional subdivisions, they follow the model historically used in Lexington, require by right approval under planning board regulations, and feature new streets with large one-family homes on large lots. A recent example is K. Tiffany Way off of Reed Street. The other types are all special permit residential developments, which have appeared more recently. They each have unique requirements and require a discretionary special permit from the planning board. Balanced housing developments permit townhouse dwellings in addition to one-family homes, limit the size of dwelling units, and require preservation of some open space. A recent example is Lexington Meadows at the end of Emerson Gardens Road. Public benefit developments are similar to balanced housing developments, but allow additional gross floor area in exchange for provision of affordable housing units. A recent example is Jefferson Drive off of Grove Street. Site-sensitive developments are similar to conventional subdivisions, but allow flexibility on lot layout and building siting to preserve site features and avoid road construction. A recent example is the corner of Hancock Street and Hayes Avenue. Site plan review was adopted in Lexington in 2009 for some large commercial developments. Its use has been expanded since then to cover smaller commercial developments, exempt uses such as schools and solar systems. It is similar in many ways to the conventional subdivision process. Under site plan review, the broad outlines of what is permitted are found in the zoning bylaw, while other details are covered by planning board regulations. Projects which comply with the bylaw and regulations are assured of a timely approval with reasonable conditions. For OSRD projects, neighbors will be notified and public input sought at a public hearing. OSRD standards for lot area, lot frontage, minimum required yards, and maximum height are identical to those currently applied in special permit residential developments. One new requirement is that each dwelling unit shall have exclusive access to a small outdoor area to use for personal amenities such as a picnic table or grill. What is different in an OSRD are the limits on building bulk achieved through limits on gross floor area. Gross floor area includes all of the floor area in a building, not just the usable or living area. It is larger than the floor area used by real estate brokers, often by a significant amount. In an OSRD, gross floor area limits apply to the development as a whole, to each building, to each dwelling unit, and to the average of all dwelling units. For the development as a whole, the total gross floor area for all market rate units is limited to the total that would have been permitted in a conventional subdivision. Each individual building is limited to what would have been permitted on the smallest lot in a conventional subdivision. These two limits keep the visual impact of an OSRD comparable to the alternative conventional subdivision. Further, the average gross floor area of all the dwelling units is limited to 2,625 square feet, with none over 5,250 square feet permitted, even if the average complies. This is significantly smaller than the dwelling units currently being built in either conventional subdivisions or SPRDs. These smaller units create a type of housing not currently being built in Lexington and that the community desires to have. In addition to open space, housing affordability is a very important goal for Lexington. OSRDs must include dwelling units with permanent price and occupancy restrictions, called inclusionary dwelling units, with a total gross floor area of at least 25% of the total gross floor area other than the inclusionary dwelling units. The affordability levels of these dwelling units will be set according to planning board regulations based on community needs in consultation with other town boards and committees. The adoption of this approach was recommended by the Regional Housing Service Office, which supports Lexington. At least 10% of the dwelling units must be eligible for inclusion on the subsidized housing inventory, which is defined as being affordable at 80% of the area mean income or less. Lexington also values preservation of its history. Our current SPRDs are often used to permit preservation of historic structures when redeveloping a site. To encourage such preservation in OSRDs, The gross floor area of historic buildings subject to a historic preservation restriction acceptable to the Historic Commission may be excluded from various calculations, providing an incentive in exchange for the cost of renovation and preservation of the structure. By a vote of 4-0 with 1 abstention, the Planning Board recommends the town meeting approve the motion under Article 35. Thank you.